everyone for coming in today. For those who do not know me, my name is Ronnie. I am a donor egg mom in waiting. And what that just means is, in order for me to conceive, my doctor told me the best chances for me to have a baby was through donor eggs or donor embryos. And so that is what I did. I ended up getting a donor. I did have 3 transfers. I am currently on the road to transfer number 4. And we do allow this space for women who have used medical intervention, IVF, embryo donation, adoption, surrogacy is what we allow the space for. So today we have on the panel for interview today is Elaine. She is a single mom by choice, and she did something that a lot of people are very curious about. She went to actual Mexico to do her process. So if you want to start there, did you have any infertility issues, or you just did not want a partner and you didn't want to do it any kind of other way?
I don't have a diagnosed infertility. Just being over 40 is a mountain to climb when you are talking about just going to your OBGYN and saying, hey, I want to start a family. If you're over 40, they, look at you as if this is impossible. And so that is where my infertility really came from. I already had a child before I started the IVF journey, so I knew that it was a possibility. I actually had 2 children before I started the IVF journey, and I had conceived twice over 40. But for whatever reason, doctors do not believe that that is a possibility when you walk into the doctor's office. So I just kind of felt like after suffering my first miscarriage that I should probably go ahead and move on to IVF.
Okay. So when you were originally doing it, you were just doing like IUIs is what you were doing?
Right. I was doing at home insemination using a soft cup with the donor sperm, fresh samples. I never tried with a frozen sample. I did also try IUI in my OBGYN's office because she did do IUI in office, medicated, monitored for a very reasonable price. I think it was like $250, $200.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I think that that's important. If you are at a certain age and you want to try, because I'm assuming that you use the Mosey baby kind of a kit thing is what you
Yes,
use for
that
at
kind of
home.
thing. Right.
So you
Taking
can
my
do that at
pills,
home.
monitoring, putting everything in it.
Right. And then she was fortunate enough because some OBs will say it's beyond their pay grade. They don't even want to bother with it. But if you can find an OB, do your research, and you can find an OB that will do IUIs in house, and kind of help you with monitoring and also offer you with medications. It may come out a little bit more affordable than going to the IVF clinic. Because sometimes the IVF clinics, even for IUIs, like $500 and $600.
Exactly. And that was one of
Right.
the things I was running into, but I just kept hunting and hunting. I found 2 clinics in the US, one located near me, one located near my donor, and they were both doing 3 IUIs for $1,000. So I did try that IUI route. And then I tried to do IVF at CNY, but when you use a donor, they want to quarantine the sperm for 6 months. And at my age, time is of the essence. I don't want to wait 6 months. I mean, you have your cycle every 20 something days. You're talking 6 months. How many cycles am I missing by waiting? And then people on Facebook started mentioning Mexico, and my donor had another recipient who went. And so once I started asking questions and finding out about it, I thought, okay, let's leave CNY behind because America has different protocol that I didn't really think affected my journey that were necessary. For one, I already had a child with my donor. Why are you quarantining my sperm if we already, have a child together and I've conceived before? And so I just started looking more into going to Mexico and what that would look like for me.
Okay. And your known donor was just somebody just you just knew from just in your life, or this was someone you met via social media? How did you meet your known sperm donor? And can you walk us through like how you guys navigate that aspect of the process?
Well, I kind of found more than one known donor in the very beginning of the process, and I admin sperm donor groups online.
Okay.
And so I started interviewing. If I would fly somewhere and had a layover, I might say, "Hey, do you mind meeting?" So I would meet them in person, kind of vet them, as you would say. And then the donor that I ended up going with, I had actually seen him on Maury Povich and reached out to him into his messenger in his inbox. Yes, he was on there with some other recipients, and he messaged me, and it's kind of like the rest is history from there. Yes.
That is like a cool story. Like all the places, it's like I met him on Maury Povich. I
That's where
love
I
it
saw
because I
him.
think it
He's doing
gives
all the tests, the DNA test.
for real.
I'm very
But did he
serious.
know? But did he know like he was? But he did he know like that's what he was doing or?
Oh yes, when he was on Maury, he was on there as a donor,
Okay.
and talking about families and things like that.
Oh, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. Okay, so when you guys, okay, so you did CNY, and I can understand that part that you've already used him once. I'm assuming that you did it with IUI and it worked the first time.
Right. No, and
Okay.
IUI never worked for me, but at home insemination, a lot of people do buy the Mosey baby kits. I've been lucky to get pregnant with just a syringe that I got for free over the counter at Target. And putting a soft cup in after. I haven't ever been successful at putting the sperm actually in with the soft cup, but putting it in with the syringe and then putting the soft cup in for me has worked more than once. I mean, basically items that would cost you $1 or $2.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm glad that you're here to even just show that is even an option. Um, I'm
And I
assuming
always say
that
I
you
did that at
also
fat and 40, so don't let anybody tell you it's not possible.
Did you get anything tested before, like your AMH, or did you get all the fertility workup or anything like that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
My IVF coverage is basically non-existent, but it does cover diagnostic testing. So
Okay.
I did what they call 30-day labs. If people are familiar with the IVF or infertility process, I did the 30-day labs where they tested my LH, they tested my progesterone on, day 21, all of my hormone panels, and everything was coming back normal, that I was ovulating, that I did have the normal cycle. They were checking my thickness of my lining. I did the ultrasounds. I did an HSG. I did all of the testing that, would be required. The first time I tried the first cycle, they did very minimal testing. Then when I didn't concede, they were like, okay, let's do everything. And that's when they pulled the 30-day
Got you.
labs. And that's
Okay.
very important.
And
You can't
then
skip that.
I agree. I agree. I think it's smart enough to know all the answers. Make sure, if you are trying to get pregnant, make sure your tubes are clear, even making
Yes.
sure like your uterine lining it looks good. If you've tried over 6 months to a year, you know, as much as we want to say there's no biological clock, there is a biological clock when it comes to reproduction. So it's better to
Mhm.
know the answers than not to know the answers. So I definitely
And I would tell,
can concur on that.
right. And I would tell anybody along with that, get a doctor who's on your side, who does believe in your journey, because I didn't have any fertility coverage, but I needed to have my tubes checked. And so what my doctor decided to do was he was like, well, since I have seen a fibroid, we'll go in and we'll remove the fibroid and do a myomectomy. But while I'm in
Right.
there, I'm also going to flush your tubes
Sure,
and run
tubes.
dye
Right.
and see it. A doctor who's not on your side isn't going to be coming up with ways that you can get around your infertility or
Right.
get around your insurance and still be able to get everything checked without you paying out of pocket, because myomectomies are very expensive.
Very expensive, but most of the time, like you said, they're one that are part of like a diagnostic kind of a thing, so you can usually get that covered under the insurance. And while they're in there, they're going to do other things. They're going to check for maybe endometriosis. They're going to maybe check for other things besides
Yes.
fibroids. They're going to check about for all those other things. So maybe you can't get something for your endometriosis, but if they're in there, they may be able to clean it up, and do a lot of things. As long as they're in there, they can then take care of those procedures. So you are absolutely correct. You are not the first person. We all have said the same thing in every interview: is advocating for yourself. You did something similar that I did too as well, when I first started my journey, is finding an OB that would do something. And I ended up finding an OB who did very similar things, and he was able to prescribe me. Um, he did the same thing, did a good workup. He did an MRI. He did all these things. But it was a long, long journey just to figure out somebody who was going to actually, OB, who was going to actually monitor me for a cycle, because a lot of them won't do that.
Right.
Now, when you moved to,
And
so
two,
you moved to, go ahead.
well, I was going to say too, and make sure your donor is on your side too, because I happen to have a wonderful donor who has been with me through this journey now for years. And as we all know, it's not something that's very easy. So you need someone who's willing to stick with you.
I agree, especially you're going to be a known donor. And what type of contract, or did y'all have a contract, as far as his involvement with your child, your children? Did you have any kind of agreements of how much he was going to be involved?
Um, we didn't do a contract. And the reason why I didn't was just because at the time that I met him, he already had so many donor children. In my mind, it was kind of like, why would he want to take mine? And only 2 states recognize contracts with known donors. They are always going to go with what's in the best interest of the child. So therefore, I didn't want to waste my time with legalities. I was really riding on faith. So I think that that's something people should think about when they vet a donor, kind of looking at, do they already have kids of their own, biological kids that maybe they've had a chance to raise, or are they also looking to start their own family? Because I was able to go out on faith and I have never had an issue, and I know that I won't. But that's because I did vet my donor and I did take the time to make sure I knew where he was in the process of being a donor.
Okay. What advice would you give someone if they were looking for, if they were wanting to work with a known donor? I know that you said that you, are managing some Facebook groups. Can you share the name of those Facebook groups?
Yes, sperm donors, just sperm and donor, no S, it's not plural, Sperm Donation USA. You are welcome to reach out to me at any of those groups. I will always help someone vet a donor. I'm always willing to let people know donors that I have met. I would definitely say you need to FaceTime with them. You need to have live chats with them. You need to speak to their previous recipients, and meeting them in person is very, very important, to really get a feel for how they feel about you and you feel about them. Because at the end of the day, that is going to be your child's other biological half. Whether or not you ever have a relationship with them for 18 years, at some point your child might want to reach out and you want to know where that person stood before you went on this journey. But vetting them is important. I would even say, if you feel that strongly about it, invest in doing a background check. go and do as much research as you can. Become their friend on Facebook, follow them on TikTok, Instagram, everything. Really get to know where that person is. And if they are asking you questions about your finances, your job, your career, that says more about the donor, that they are looking for someone who can really raise that child on their own, and they aren't going to get stuck with child support and possibly raising the child later. So don't think, oh, this person is all in my business. No, they want to make sure that just like if you were going through adoption, you can really take care of that child on your own.
So that's a very interesting thing that you brought up. So are they on the hook because you're using them? If you wanted to do, say, child support, would they have to do that?
It's unfortunate, but like I had said earlier, the government goes on what's in the best interest of the child. And
Oh,
then a
wow.
lot of women are misinformed. So they use a donor and then maybe they fall on hard times and they have to get state public assistance. And when you do that, if you have listed your donor on the birth certificate or when the state asks and you put their name on anything, they have come after donors on many, many occasions.
Oh, wow. So that's why a lot of them just want to be anonymous and they don't want to
Yes.
be okay, okay, okay. That makes sense. I never thought that they would, because I'm thinking, as far as egg donation is concerned, like my egg donor is not legally bound. Like I can't go after her for any kind of assistance or anything like that, because
Right.
she donated her eggs, but we also had a contract as well too. So in exchange for money, she gave me her eggs. I mean, she relinquished every rights to them, and then also I don't have she didn't owe me anything either. Besides
Okay.
what she gave me. Um, this is wonderful, wonderful information. And I would say if that is for the male perspective, if they want to be a known donor, I would say that would be what legal contract would be for, to protect them maybe in the end for something like
Right.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to think about for anyone who's a guy who's thinking about it. Either go through a sperm bank, or if you're going to do independent, then definitely a contract should be in place that protects you from not having to pay any type of child support or anything like that. For a man, I think that they would do that. But in your case, I think that your guy kind of knows, and he's probably just been doing it for a long time to know who he wants to donate to and who he doesn't want to donate to. Now, let's transition. You went to Mexico because you said you had seen some things on the social media groups, and you actually decided to stay there a month, correct?
I
How was
did.
that experience, and how did you find that? Because I mean, you left, well, as well, now I'm seeing you left CNY because of the 6 months thing, but
Right.
also it was the cost you said was becoming overwhelming too. So how did you navigate thinking like staying a month there and doing the IVF treatment was still going to be cheaper than doing CNY?
I researched so much. And then my clinic actually has a group on Facebook, Dr. Garza in Matamoros, Mexico, which is basically a border town with Texas. And I researched every time someone would post where they're staying, the names of Airbnbs, hotels, I would research them, look at the cost. And luckily, I found one that was only $30 a day. And so I thought, I won't go on cycle day one. They said I don't have to be there until cycle day three. And so when cycle day one came, I started packing everything, getting myself ready. And I had already reached out to the owner of that Airbnb because you kind of know when your cycle is coming at this point because you're tracking, tracking, tracking. And
Right.
so there was a block of time that she had already blocked out for me, but I was going to be arriving early now at this point. So I did have a couple of days where I had to stay at different places. But because I had researched, I was able to find places that were, pretty inexpensive. I arranged for my donor to fly down, but we were just kind of playing it by ear of what cycle day the clinic would want him to come down and all of that. And I got my baby, And, he just goes to daycare. He was only one. So I thought, we can just go down there and just stay at this Airbnb. It was very nice. I found that a lot of places were inexpensive. And if you are willing to stay on the Mexico side, they're even cheaper than the $30 a day. I just was
Oh,
not
wow.
ready for that kind of adventure yet. Not with my baby,
Right,
by
right, right, right.
myself. Yes,
Right,
but
right.
I was like, not really sure with him. So I knew that I had $30 a day that I was going to be coming out of pocket. And I knew that they had already told me that this process could take anywhere from about 20 to 28 or so days. So I had kind of figured, that much out. Um, I ended up spending more than I had spent for a cycle with CNY. With my one cycle with CNY, I spent a little over 6,000. With this cycle in Mexico, I spent just on the medical part a little over 8,000.
Okay.
And then with it not being successful, you feel like you have done it wrong. But I kept very detailed notes of everything that we had done, the things that I wasn't prepared for that cost extra, like the labs, the STD testing that they did, all of the
Right.
ultrasounds. Of course, meds were way more than I thought they would, end up costing. And so I just thought, I can do this again, but I know how to do it next time and not spend as much. And so I asked them, were they willing to do cycles with me if I did all of my monitoring back at home in the United States? And if I only came for retrievals and I only came for transfers? And they told me yes. So
Wow.
by the next cycle, I did all of my ultrasounds in America, which were only $150 each. And I bought all of my meds myself, finding coupons online for everything from the HCG hormones to all of my stems. I just bought everything at a discount and use coupons. And every time people in groups, they would talk about, oh, this one is, running a special. I bought everything in bulk, much cheaper. I ended up spending only 600 on meds. And then I think maybe 3 ultrasounds that first cycle at 150 a piece. And then I only had to pay for the retrieval, which was 1,000. And my clinic, every time you come, it's cheaper and cheaper and cheaper until it got down to $500. So now I'm just paying $500 for retrievals, and it's $500 for a transfer, but they also charge $250 to the anesthesiologist because you really don't want to do the transfer without, or the retrieval without the anesthesiology.
Yeah.
But
Correct.
I know that there are warrior women out there who have done it. I am just not there yet.
I'm
But
not either. I like my naps.
I mean, I was able to really get it down. I really only go down. I do all of my monitoring at home. Um, I got my primary care physician on my side. She does all of my labs, and she doesn't submit them as infertility or anything like that. She just says she's running a hormone panel for me whenever they
Right.
say, hey, we need to know your LH, we need to know your progesterone. She just
Right.
says, come in, we'll run a hormone panel. And you also have to have everything lined up because they need the results that day. So I have to
Right.
go into and get that ultrasound in enough time for someone to read it and send it to Mexico before I think 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It really takes a lot of research, but once you get it done and you understand the process, it's so much cheaper and so much easier than the clinics in America. And I know it seems scary to people, but I was able to go down there and do it with my baby.
And I'm assuming that you just, when you were doing it that way, you just probably used the same hotel or same little Airbnb like over and over again. So you knew exactly where to go, the places, the shops around it. And so you were able to just even feel comfortable just continuing to do it.
Right. And so one of the things I do is you share when you go down there and you have that experience and you stay at a good Airbnb or the host is really nice or inexpensive, let people know. One of the things like, I stayed at a different Airbnb another time, and the young lady let me check in early. And so I was like, hey, she let me check in early. It was really clean, letting other people know, because you have to be there early in the morning for, your retrieval or your transfer. And then you really need to have somewhere to lay down and relax afterwards. But, at a hotel, it has to be after 3 or 4 o'clock. If you've had your
Right.
procedure at 8 o'clock in the morning, it's 10, 11, you need somewhere that you can go. And a lot of the Airbnb hosts are recipients themselves, and they understand the process. So they know, I
Right.
understand, you want to be able to go ahead and check in so that you have somewhere to lie down. And the clinic, Dr. Garza, he has a medical van, a shuttle that comes over into Texas, into the border, picks everyone up at a Motel 6, and takes you right to his clinic. So you don't have to pay the border crossing fees or anything like that. If you just meet at the Motel 6, tell them you need transportation, they'll come pick you up. They even take you back to the Motel 6. And the Motel 6 isn't that expensive either if you need to stay there.
Oh wow. So they've got like they've dealt with enough US patients to kind of have it down to a science to say, okay, this is what you need to do, which makes everyone feel comfortable, especially when you're going to a place, because a lot of us do this stuff by ourselves.
Right.
Some of us don't have partners, or some people they do have partners, but they have other children, and so they're unable to go and do the everyone's not able to go because it's more expensive. The more people go, the more expensive it is. And if you're trying to save your budget, that's great that they are doing it and making you feel like you are safe doing
Right.
this.
And they're very supportive. And as far as like communication, they communicate 98% of the time via WhatsApp, but they do have a cell phone that you can call. I ran into an issue earlier this year. The doctor called me himself on the cell phone. I
Wow.
posted in the group chat, and there's probably 10, 20,000 members in the Facebook group. And I said to the admin, I was like, I'm on my way down there, and there's a little confusion of what's going on, what the procedure is going to be. I need some help. And she was like, I have his cell phone number, and I'm going to tell him that you're having issues. Within 30 minutes, he called me on my cell phone, and he said, keep my number. Anytime you ever have an issue, you call me. I want you to feel very comfortable as a patient. And so I have just loved being a patient there. Like, it is definitely a one-on-one experience that I have had with them.
So
No
walk us through where
communication
you are.
issues.
Walk us
Go
through
ahead.
it now where you are in your journey, because it sounds like you've had a few egg retrievals. Walk us through now how where you are in the process of your journey.
So I have done 6 retrievals there and 8 transfers. I haven't been successful. I've had blasts. My blast didn't take either, but I do have some embryos there now. And I took about a 6-month break where I said I'm going to focus on me, just kind of mind, body, and spirit, because we know that the stress and things like that can also keep you from being successful. And I just keep in my mind that those embryos that I have waiting for me in Mexico are the age I was before. So I can
Right.
just relax, take my time, focus on me, focus on being the best I can be, and then I will be, ready to transfer.
And I think that's the key with anything. I actually took a year off. I had 3 transfers almost like back to back. And then I just took recently like almost a year and a half off. And your mental health during this, especially with the going back and forth, I also travel as well. On my journey, I go to Utah, and it can be a lot. You want something so badly, but then you end up feeling like you're losing part of yourself a little bit too as well.
Yeah.
And the feeling like a failure, feeling all these things. And so um breaks to me are all out. So as someone just asked me today, they were asking me about my protocol, and they were asking me about um adenomyosis and what does your doctor say. And I said, I never was formally diagnosed, we just treat it as it is. And they were asking me some different questions, and then I said, but I still don't have a take home baby. And she said, how do you manage like to still keep on going? So I want to ask you that. How do you manage to still keep going despite all the egg retrievals and the embryo transfers?
It's really hope and faith. And of course, every day I question, should I give up? Should I stop? Because having kids is a little different, because you feel like you're taking away from them financially and emotionally by continuing on. But I just have in my heart and in my mind that this is not the end of the journey for me. I don't know how you know when to stop, but my faith and my heart all say that I should keep going.
And I said something very similar. I just said, I think that, pausing doesn't mean giving up to me. Pausing does not mean that I've given up. Pausing just means I'm just focused on some other things.
Mm-hmm.
I still want a child like you very, very
Mm-hmm.
badly. But what type of mother would I be if I'm still not mentally stable enough to even raise this child, because I've just been pushing, pushing, pushing. So that had to
Right.
be a realization for myself to say that I need to get back to me, get back to the things that I love to do. I don't have any biological children. I have a bonus daughter, but I started pouring my energy because I felt the same way to you. I'm sitting here pouring my
Mm-hmm.
energy into somebody that doesn't exist. And I've got a child here who needs me, and I'm not being the best mother to her because I'm too
Right.
focused on what I don't have. So shifting your mental health, your mental thoughts can sometimes help you too as well. Because like I said, pausing doesn't mean giving up. It just means that we're just not doing it right now.
Right. That really is the hardest part, I think, of the whole journey. For whatever reason, when I'm like, "Ooh, another 1,000, another 2,000," somehow I come up with that money. I'm like, I wouldn't have come up with if I wanted a pair of shoes or anything else, but somehow I keep coming up with money to pay for this IVF journey. But the stopping, I just can't seem to give up.
I don't think that you should. I mean, someone I know, she was going through infertility, said that her prayer was to God that if the desire should not no longer be there, like take it away. Like I want you to take it away from me because I'm not going to take it away from myself. If I'm not meant to do this, take it away from me. And that resonated with me so much because I was like, I was feeling the same way. It wasn't happening. I kept doing this, and I was like, look, if I'm not supposed to, Lord, if I'm not supposed to be a mama, just say that. you know? And that was started becoming my prayer. If that is not where I'm supposed to be, just take the desire away. And for me, it's not been taken away. It's been like, well, maybe we need to do something else, but it's not been taken away. So I would say that advice, if that's not something that you want to do, I don't feel like you should give up. Now you join our group. Now, why you join our group?
Because I know that I have embryos there and maybe they aren't taking for me. And when I do give up my journey, I don't want it to feel like it's a rush to choose someone. I feel like I want to have already just been kind of watching somebody, following somebody, and know this person, it just feels right. Because I think about that all the time. Like, maybe these will work for somebody else, because no one even knows. The doctors don't really know. Is it the lining? Is
Right,
it something that's going on? Because
right.
something is happening, because every single retrieval I've had, every single egg has fertilized and grown and made it except for one. And he's
Oh,
like,
wow.
over 40, that's unheard of.
That's heard
So,
of. Yes.
right. He's like, so I'm like, these embryos will work for someone.
And how many do you have left?
So I have 3 left now.
Okay. Now did they didn't test them or anything like that? They're just do they have any grades? Are they day 5?
These are supposed to be two were excellent grades, and then one was one grade down from those. And I didn't even test my blast. He said he felt like at my age my body would just reject it if it didn't work and it wouldn't take. He felt like there was no reason to waste the time testing.
I think he's correct. I think after 40, you know, you want to give probably every one of them a chance, because you're just going to basically decrease your odds. Um, you know, we don't have egg quality on our side. After that, you know, you definitely are fortunate to be over 40. How many eggs were they retrieving per cycle?
4.
Okay. That's about that's about as good as probably, you know, even now at 45, when I was doing my ultrasounds, I had a good 4 or 5 baby ones. They were in there, but I had about good 4 or 5 um little teeny tiny, just little baby follicles in there. I was like, look at me
Right.
showing out.
It's like,
I
you'll
said, not you
have
got some follicles,
had
girl.
9 follicles, and if I can get half of them to stem, I'm happy at this point.
Right. Mine wasn't doing nothing, girl. As much estrogen as I was taking, them bad boys was not percolating, and she was like,
It's the
"Are
hot
you taking
flashes
some?
for
Are
me.
you taking some medication?" I said, "Girl, they doing exactly what they supposed to do. They supposed to be quiet. We're not trying to get them to grow. They need to just be quiet." And they were little. They really were little. They were like 1 to 2. They weren't nowhere near close to growing. But I was like, they understand assignment. We don't need them. We got embryos. We don't need them.
Right.
They can just chill and hang out and just be in there. Um so I would ask you this. I think that's brave of you, to, if you are coming to a place where you're thinking about, you know, not using them, that you want to bless someone with those embryos, because that's not an easy decision to do, especially being in a situation where you have been trying,
Mhm.
and now, you know, there's going to be, you know, there could potentially be someone who has a child, even though you have one, you know.
Mhm.
It still probably would sting just a little bit, you know, going through the process. Have you thought about that and managing that emotion, if that was to come?
I think that's kind of what um, keeps me looking for that perfect person who would, let me participate in some way. Um, just, the pictures or, a phone call every now and then. That's why I'm looking for that perfect person, because I think that part is what would be hard for me. Um, not being able to have any say or anything like that. And my clinic does do embryo adoption to the recipients, but you don't get to know who they are. It's,
Right,
completely
right,
anonymous. That I can't, participate in. I'm
right.
okay with just having my family that I have now, but I want to know something. And the way the clinic is, I just can't do that.
Yeah, we had Erica. She was on here. She has embryos left, and she's in the process of now moving hers because of the same situation. She wants to donate the remainder to some. She's already donated to 2 women. I think she has some still left over, and she wants to donate. And the clinic is basically saying, you know, they can't know, they're doing it, want to do anonymous, and she said she doesn't want to do that, you know. And they're giving her a hard time, as you know, making her husband sign off on stuff because it's his DNA. She's an egg donor, but they're giving her a hard time. So she was like, you know what, I'm just gonna move my embryos. That's fine. That's fine. We'll just move them. And because I think it's still important, you know, if you are able to, these children one day will build their own community. And this is the foundation that we're laying, because egg donation, embryo donation, even the single moms by choice, we're all building a slight community so that these kids can all have something in common and know that they're not alone in the unique journey
Right.
and within themselves, and know that they have other things and other people in common, and they can talk to other people. Um,
Hmm.
Freedom says there were two major laws passed in 2023 regarding anonymous donor rights. Um, with the new, and I don't like to get into politics, but understanding your reproductive rights are going to be really important in the next 4 years.
Yeah.
And so being in the know and knowing what you can do, um, and still being in control of your own autonomy is going to be very important for all of us
Right.
going forward, and our children, our and especially our girls. So
Somebody asked too, had I thought about like donor eggs myself? And of course, once you get to that age of 40, every clinic you go to, that's the first thing that they do. That's the easy way out. Being in Mexico, African American women are limited. And
right,
so, what Dr. Garza offered to me was a dark skinned Mexican. My problem became my donor is already white.
yeah,
Um, what is this baby going to look like with a dark skinned Mexican? Probably would lead, I felt like lend itself probably more to the white side. And I really kind of wanted a child that looked like they were more from me. And so that's the reason why I've been very hesitant to
right,
use donor eggs in Mexico, but he has offered many times, and they are much cheaper if I go
right.
that route in Mexico than to jump through all the hoops in America to try to get donor eggs. I mean, I would really be better off asking a cousin or a neighbor or somebody, can I pay for you to do IVF in Mexico with my donor, than to try to get eggs here in America. But he has offered to get me a dark skinned Mexican a few times.
Now you gotta watch Erica's story, because she has a Mexican donor, and she picked her because she said she looked like she eat chicken. So Lim,
Yes.
she came on. He's half now she used her husband. He's black, so he's
Okay.
half Mexican, and he's half black. But and I've seen her donor. She is like a little bit on the darker side, but they picked her because they said it looked like she eat chicken. So I mean, it could listen. This is the thing about DNA. I say it all the time. It's a little funny. We don't know what the child is going to look like either way. But we have seen a lot of stories where, Indigo was on here. And I promise you that baby is her twin. She had she actually showed me the little sheet that she had on her to just yesterday today. She showed me the sheet. Literally was like a half of, just like a little blurb said he was African American, um, the grade, he was double frozen, and it's her twin.
Wow.
That's her twin. You cannot tell me that that child is not her twin.
Wow. And that's how it works out sometimes. It really, really does.
Yeah, that I mean when and she he came on, and I mean, everybody was almost in shock, because when they saw him they said, "Are you and she was like, "This is we are not DNA related." But I truly believe in, we us who do the egg donation, we believe in epigenetics, and that uh you know we are we used a seed, but we're the ones who grow. We're the ones who do all the work, and bring that baby home. And so even though you're not DNA related, the your part of you is expressed on the child. And so you'll see some women who have, their donor didn't have freckles, but maybe they have freckles, and so now their baby has freckles, or different types of things that have happened that people have seen that their child does something that they've done before, and necessarily it's just from growing and just the baby being inside of you. I always just say with anything, it's all your personal choice and what you feel comfortable in doing. But if you haven't had a chance to look at, but Erica's, she's in our group and she's funny, but she did use a Hispanic donor, and that was her reasons for picking her. She looked like she liked chicken. We all pick it. My donor is biracial, and there a lot of us have biracial donors. We just can't find African American donors.
You can't find
Um,
African American sperm. I mean, everything is just that much harder.
True, true. And that's what I was gonna ask too. What made you what was your reasons for is this because you just like to vibe, or you picking someone who is not of color?
For me, I already had a child who was of mixed race, so that kind of made it more so that I was like, oh, she's going to want a sibling who, would look like her. Um, and I just wanted somebody who was going to work with me and be around through that journey. And I mean, there are Black sperm donor groups, but they're not as big as like my groups. Our men
Right.
just are scared, hesitant. The system has not been good to our men in any way, shape, or form. So I'm not, you know, alarmed that they are shying away from something like this. I'm sure that they don't want to see their sisters not being able to make more brothers and sisters. It's just that the white donors are paying, child support, and they're probably thinking it's going to be that much worse for them if they get caught up. But my donor is in a movie called Sperm World on Hulu right now. And
Okay.
there is a Black donor, Tyrese, who's also in that movie.
I'm
And
gonna
he
check that
shares
out. I'm
his.
gonna I'm definitely gonna check that out. I think there's the more education that we have. But again, they also need to know that, they can also they can be known and be with a sperm bank too as well. So they can do those
Uh,
things as well. If they don't want to do private donation, they can go to a sperm bank and then relinquishes all those rights. And nobody can come to them and ask for those type of things. But I could definitely understand private, why anybody would be hesitant about that. That's alarming to me, and I'm not even remotely in that position. That But there are sperm banks that will help alleviate that part of the worry,
and we have a
and then you
local
can be
sperm bank,
known.
and I started to go that route with my daughter's father because he was worried about the legalities and things like that, and that will help alleviate that.
I agree. Does anybody have any questions? I feel like I learned so much just with this well, you know what, I say I learn stuff, and then I go to the next one. I learned so much. Okay, so I learned so much at every interview. But does anybody else have any questions for Elaine? Because I think, even just from the known, I mean, I have a known donor or whatever. I have a known person, but I like know him, like. So I mean, is my bonus daughter is her dad. So I mean, like for that aspect, like that's how we are going to be connected. But I did not know that the scary thing of, now I see why, we can't get black men to do it. I mean, I wouldn't do it either. You know what I'm saying? Don't be coming on though. Because I gave you a gift. Don't be coming on. Girl, you better go somewhere. But does anybody have any questions for Miss Elaine? They said thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm just glad to be able to share my journey.
Last thing, and for someone who is starting this journey over 40 and wanting to do it by themselves, this would be my last question for you, is what advice would you give them? Um, Especially you doing your own cycles and your own retrievals and doing this, what would be something that you would have if they were wanting to start this journey by themselves?
When you run into people who aren't on your side or who aren't on your way, they are in your way. So do not keep bringing them along. Everybody is not going to be a part of this journey, and you have to know that. Whether you're a single mom by choice or a married couple, everybody just isn't for them. So don't let anybody tell you no. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. You keep hunting until you find people who are going to be supportive of you and that can point you in the right direction. There are so many groups now. Pretty much every fertility clinic, CNY, has an over 40 group. Every fertility a company in America pretty much has an over 40 group, or a group that is going to be for you to help you along with that journey. Start looking for them. Look on, websites, look in social media. Find a group of people who can help explain the process to you, because there are people out there. There are so many platforms, this one included, that you can find people who have been where you want to be, and they will help you. I'm very supportive of anyone who wants to hop in my inbox and ask me anything. If I can help you and give you information, I'm there for you.
Thank you so much. And I think that I'm so happy for women like you who, create spaces. We're all creating our different spaces to make sure that you can fit in. Maybe you don't fit into Elaine's group, or maybe you don't fit into Every Shade group. But like she said, there are so many groups out there where you can at least get the support that you need and the advice that you need to kind of move forward in this journey. I think Sherry said, like, the villages are there, you just need to participate in them. We don't know you're there
Yes.
if you don't say anything. If you sit in there for 6 months, we don't know you there. You got to speak
Right.
up and let us know what help you need, how we're going to guide you on your journey. What's the deal? Because guess what? We all doing our own thing too. You doing your own thing. I'm doing my own thing. I can't check on y'all when I'm trying to do stuff for myself too. So don't be afraid to speak up, especially in these private spaces. That's what they're for, so that you can speak up. And being in my group, there's no judgment. I don't judge
Right.
anybody for what they say, how they are in their journey. For the most part, I'm like, look, I can't tell you. The only thing that I can't tell you is I can't tell you to fight for your eggs, because I ain't fight for mine. So that's the only thing I can't tell you. If you want, but if you want to keep fighting, girl, you keep fighting as much as you want to. But you're not gonna get that from me, because I moved on. I moved on, and but that was the decision for me. That may not be the decision for you, but if you're trying to get
Right.
me to convince you to keep cycling after cycling, I'm not going to be the one to do that. At some point, this is why I tell people, and this is why you moved to Mexico. At some point, there has to be a financial thing, that can you really keep affording to keep going? And if you truly can't afford to keep going, then you may need to find an alternate route to
Mhm.
get to the goal. But again, she's showing you what go get your baby look like, and go get your baby is not easy.
Right. That is true.
It's
It's
not
not. It's not.
easy.
It's not going to be easy. And if you're looking for an easy route, this is definitely not for you.
Right. Cause I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm so sick right now. Go get your baby. I was like, look, go get your baby in real time. It's real ghetto. I didn't realize how ghetto was till I started documenting it. And documented it, I was like,
Yes.
this is real ghetto.
I didn't realize how much money I had spent until I just started adding up the slips, and I was like, wait a second. It, I mean, it's unreal. I know. It's a lot.
It's a lot, but we gonna do it. I wish you the best of luck on your journey. We are
Thank you so
always
much.
here to support you no matter what. Um, you know, whether you continue and you try your embryos, or you could get embryos in the group too. We are now starting to get more women starting to donate since the birth of the group. I think I seen like two or three wanted to donate. The whole thing is there are so many options here that we can do, and even the fact that you want to, if you decide not to continue this journey, you want to help somebody else become a mom. I think that is such a beautiful thing, because you feel like everybody deserves to be a mom no matter what. So I
Definitely.
thank you for choosing our group to do that, because there are a lot of egg donation groups on Facebook, but we truly value our members and we want to see all of them become moms. And I thank you for just joining, just to even want to do that.
You're welcome.
Well, I'm gonna drop you down